Welcome back, everybody. Hey, made it this far. What we're going to do is we did the rear suspension. We used the subframe in the back because I needed to keep the tie rods pretty much in stock location. So I can use stock tie rods, stock control arms, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what we're going to do to the front. Same thing. We have to expand it out almost 2 inches from the existing holes out 2 inches. I'll show you what I'm going to use for that. And seeing how I'm not using the rear, have a tie rod that's on the actual subframe, I'm not going to use the subframe. I'm just going to put in some metal, some flat stock. And then we'll set the top arm for the tie rod, or for the steering gear. So let's get right onto that, and we shall get this thing set up. Oh, one thing I forgot. In the back, I thought the wheel bearing and CV was seated, and they move freely. And when I went to torque them down, they didn't move. So what I do is I had to pull them off, use the lathe. Yep, I cheated. I used the lathe, and I took about 1 to 2 mil off the entire, basically the curvature or the profile of the entire CV joint. Same thing with this. I did that. Those are probably A6 rear shafts, I believe, and these are A4 shafts. So if you use an A4 CV, you're gonna have to expect it to put it in the lathe. That's my mistake. I should have done it. I should have told you about it when I should have done it prior to me even doing it. But it seemed to work out in the back. I put the CV. They actually, they weren't too far off, and I still got plenty of play in the CV joint. So let's put these. I'll bring you over here, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Here's the control arm, and if we move the CV in and out, so I want to put it roughly in the center, right there. I propped up, and then we have to get the line. Like if this is exactly 2 inches, I got to have the holes over here exactly 2 inches in order to make it equal. We need to actually have these things set so when we pull down the subframe, we can weld right up into it. Let me first clean up that, and I'm going to weld just some bars onto this just to stabilize it and show you where I'm going to use it. And then we're going to pull down the subframe to get this stuff all squared away, and I'll show you what I'm going to use for, the flat stock I'm going to use for this. So let's get done. What we got now is we have the control arm right here. We have to have them both out equidistant, so it's basically, exactly, how could I put it, squared by using the subframe into the hole of the wheel well. That's pretty much what we're doing. We're just taking a stock control arm and moving it out inch and 3/4 to 2 inches. I think it's about 2 inches. Whatever way the CV joint is in the middle of their play. What I'm going to do to center this so I can pull this down and then weld up the brackets is just some pieces of metal. I'm going to weld it to the chassis right here, weld it strong enough, then I'm going to weld it to this to make this control arm stationary. Pull the thing down and build everything right onto the control arm, doing it that way. That's probably the only way I can see really doing it, because we have to pull the subframe off in order to have places to mount the flat stock. So let me just warm up the welder, and I'll weld to the chassis. Pretty much straight line across, just like that. What I do is go over there. I want to make sure this side and the other side is equidistant from each other, so we have it's pretty much right on the money as in the factory measurement. So what I tried to do was right there, end to end, and I'll go do the other one. Straight line, end to end. I already measured that one again. Let's pull the subframe down. Oh, one thing happened. We broke this tack bringing the subframe out. It happens. But what we do have is a reference mark. So if we push this up, push it back in, this thing should be exact. We are shooting in the dark now, but I'm going to just hold this together, and I'm going to re-tack it so it doesn't move, and then we're going to start building our brackets. Here's a control arm suspended. What I have to do is now make the mounts to come straight down. Yeah, what I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna lightly brace them, but I'm gonna fully brace them when I get done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. What I'm gonna use, I have a bunch of pieces of flat stock here and there. They're all 1/4 inch for now. The bracing will probably be less, I'm not really sure, but this is basically bridge building stuff, is what it is. And what it is I'll notch it and use this as the braces all the way through here. And I'll probably brace it up towards the engine mount also. Because see, I don't have a gap right here. Well, might as well, you know. Let me go cut up some of this stuff and we will make it work. This is longer because it's curving down, and now what I do is just drill a hole where I want it. I got to put it up next to the bushing to see which side I want more. I think I want more on this side. That way it'll go in and go like that. Well, we have the front bracket just like that. I have to, you know, grind down this. I always cut them a little bit long, and I'll grind down to get it to where it's supposed to be. This one, I purposely made it long. Now what I want to do is I want to go from the frame rail here and just over, cut it, and bring it down to here so it's pretty much equal with the bottom of this one. Then I'll cut, and I basically made the hole off of this right here. I put the bracket in. That's pretty much where I wanted it. And now I'll go drill this and just get myself a notch and see what happens. Here's the one with the notch cut in it. That's where it's going to go. And if I bring it down here, it looks pretty close. This one, it's a little down from here, so I've got to grind this down a little bit. And I'll grind all this off, and then we will tack it, do the other side, then weld up. You have to remember, this plate's going to have supports back here. This plate's going to have supports down to here. Should be all right. See what happens. Now that I get in and ground this down a little bit with the small angle grinder, this is what I did. Also, you got to make kind of a gusset, if you want to call that, or an in relief. So when you weld it, it doesn't have to be all the way like a knife edge, but you want enough so when it comes in and melts the entire metal, then build up around it, and then run the bead. I usually do on a couple beads, but yeah, whatever. I'm not a welder. I'm just a hillbilly. What I do now, I got to put this up here. And I am going to bolt it in, at least. Then I'll weld this thing in to the point where it's going to be stationary. That's it, you know. Okay, we have that. A little bit of a gap, but I'm going to fill that. That's no problem. I got the gap because I put this on because of the undercoating, and then when I took the undercoating off, more of it off, and then ground it down, guess what? There you go. But I don't mind. It'll weld up because all this is going to be plated over to here, plated down. I mean, I just can't interfere with the drive shaft moving back and forth and up and down. It'll be plated like that, you know, from here to here. There's not much movement anyway, but just in case. You never know. So let me just zip this in, then I'll do that. There, this isn't going anywhere. This is temporary. I mean, you have to remember, this is all going to be plated in through here. This is going to be plated down to here. It's going to be like a couple of triangles right here. So this hole is open. Also down to here, triangles, you know, just to make sure everything. And I'll probably put a plate right here to go all the way to encompass all the way through here. Or maybe even up to I'll probably do it all the way up to the mount and come back down. That way it'll all be triangulated. At least I hope. need to trim that right there. Other than that, I think we need to weld it. Now that we welded the girders in place, let's go over. I'm going to go do the other side off camera, and then we'll get right back to probably going backwards, but I'm not really sure which way I'm going to go yet. But that's, it's on there. I mean, rolling it across the ground probably won't do anything to it. Putting it on the road, yeah, that'll do a lot to it. Well, next day, guess what? Welded the plates in for the left side, and take a look at what happened. I pulled the undercoating off. Ground it off, and oh my God, it was all rust and just a big gaping hole, and it's broken right up through here. So what I have to do, grind this down, put a plate right in here, and I'm going to do the plate here. See how I'm going to start doing the plates? I'm going to make the plates for everything. What I have to do now, as if you take a look at most suspension systems, just going down the road, you have the leading edge and the trailing edge, just like an airplane wing. You know, the leading edge cuts the air, the trailing edge, basically funnels the air, or smooths out the air at the end. And, get a lower pressure underneath the wing, and you go and you have lift. Now, what I have to do is mitigate rallying forces. Now, if I put a plate from here to here, and the car is going forward, it basically strengthens this from going backwards. But I also need a plate for when this thing is turning, it goes into ditches, it goes into everything. It's getting forces all the way around. So that's the reason why I built this plate up, because I want to put a box section down in here. I want to box it up in here, box it down in here, and also run something down through here, which is going to clear the drive shaft, the half shaft, but also stiffen up this plate a lot. But I also have to have the ability to get a gun or an impact gun in here to get the bolt off really fast, And if you need to change a CV joint or a control arm or whatever you need to do, a ball joint or whatever. And I'm going to do the backs also. So if I can plate everything all into each other, and that way all the forces being generated by this control arm is dispersed onto the chassis rail, front and rear, I have a good chance of this thing not bending when I hit something. Now, whether or not that's always the case, that's another thing. I might have to have a support bar that's interlocked in here that goes over to the other side, for crunching forces. But if I do that, I am going to make it part of the skid plate pan. And it's going to be like a U shape, which actually slots inside here. And it just goes underneath the pan, which supports when a rock hits the pan, it doesn't go up into the oil pan. So it hits the skid plate, and the skid plate takes the force of the hit, but does not, and it stops on that bar. The bar does not allow the transfer of that, the transfer of the rock stone hitting the oil pan and damaging your oil pump or your oil pump pickup or so forth. But that's for a lot later date. I need to get this thing plated, get it on the ground so I can roll the thing into the garage and then bring the Sport Quattro out, because that's the major thing. But the first thing is, let's go make some plates over on the other side, and then I'll do it on this side and get it all done. Here we have the right side, and this is the reason why I put this plate up there, so I could actually put a mount, make this plate and go into up here. But what I'm planning on doing is taking the forces from this plate and going all the way up into the engine mount. As you can see, I didn't weld this part of the engine mount. I welded the front, I welded the top, but this I really couldn't get at. I'm going to wait till I pull the engine transmission down and out and try and figure out what I'm going to do with that. That's when I'm going to come back in and I'm going to weld all this stuff. But what I did do is, seeing how I was changing the cabin filter on a car the other day, I grabbed the box, and I pretty much want to do it like, where was it? Was it this way? No, this way. Okay. Here is where I want it to go. And I want it to go up there, onto, or underneath that, right there. I have to grind that down a little bit. This thing is going to flip over like this, and I cut a little short. I got to flip it over and right into here. So it's going to be a box section all the way up into here and all the way down into here. It's not going to interfere with this. One of the things we have to worry about, when we drop this motor, we can't have this box section interfere with the motor mount. We have to have it flush down through here so there's no obstruction. When we want to get the motor out fast, we can't be messing around with having a stupid mount that we put in the way because we needed it here. That's not a problem. That's not what we can do. So let me go cut this. I'm going to grind up this metal and I'll stitch weld it in. What we have now, besides being this roll around death being an absolute shit show, because this is what happens when you're deep involved in building one thing. You know, nothing else matters. I throw everything around. Just, you know, trial and error and trying to say, oh, what do I do? What do I do? So what you don't see is the hours of me trying to figure out this stupid crap. Because, like I said, I'm making it up as I go. What do we have for metal? Well, this is a metal base for a 92, I think it was a G series, G20 or 30 or whatever, a van that I had. This is what I used it for a service vehicle for a couple of years. It worked well until it was just no more. It was just so rotted I couldn't really fix it. I mean, I could, but I didn't have the desire to. What I am going to do is use this seat metal base. Oh, actually, I put Merkur seats on this thing in the van so it's comfy. You know, and it the pump up lumbar support. It's kind of neat. One of my crew, a friend of mine, he hated it because he hit his head in there because I put it too high. But that's beside the point. Let's get on to doing this. What we are doing is we are cutting out the supports for the sides. This is the same thickness as the subframe material itself. I mean, it's not bridge building material, you know, the 1/4-inch steel bar, flat bars that I put in there. This is just a supporting material to make a box and to add stiffness. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. You know, I'm making this up as I go along. Don't trust me. But this is what I've got, and this is what I'm going to go with, and this is a good way to recycle it all. What I did is I took the template, and I just trying to put it around, trying to figure out, oh, okay, well, which is the best way to do this now? And I'll just put this on and try to figure out the least amount of metal that I can take, that I have to cut with all of this. So yeah, that looks about right. And I'll just do that. I'm giving a little bit extra right here because I marked on the template, which I already cut off the paper, that I needed at least a 1/2 inch extra to bend down to make the box. So I'm just going to slice this portion off. I'm going to leave this right here, and I'm going to grind it down with the grinder when I get over to the car. So let's just cut this off. When you add a curve, it makes it stronger. Whew, that's not including what I'm going to probably put in for something, no, I mean in here, but I'll probably put something here. Don't know yet.
Uh, it all depends on how I can, I have to make sure I can get everything in there and get the bolt out and all that stuff, where it's going to be really easy. Here will be the gun, there will be the wrench. So let's go do the other side. All right, I got this plate welded to these two. It's relatively stationary. I gotta do more cutting and just plating up here. Well, I have to get the grinder to blast that out, and then I'll put the other plates there. I'm just gonna do the last two, and then we're gonna get onto the steering arm. Well, that's pretty much in. And it needs to be more seam welded anyway, but I won't get that because I want to save my argon right now. Whew, let's get on to doing the steering arm and make this bad Johnny roll across the floor. Whew. Man, what did we do today? Oh, wow. It's over a couple of days. Wow, it's a lot of cutting, a lot of grinding. What did we accomplish? We pushed the wheels out 2 inches either side. 4 inches equal track. They should fit the fenders. That's a big thing to me. No spaces. Just bolt the damn wheels on. Another thing, building all these plates, I used the cardboard and I traced them all, and basically the end products, I have everything marked inside there, all written out. So when I do the sport, I'm just going to cut the plates. It'll be that much faster instead of trying to say, oh well, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. What did we also accomplish with all the plates? There's going to be relatively no movement back and forth or side to side, and I got lots of stability, in and out because of the mounts up here onto the engine mount. And I will probably build a mount onto the chassis and onto the transmission mount right there. I was going to be doing the hubs. Nope. It took me days and days of figuring out how I'm going to put that steering arm on. And I just figured it out. All of the stuff that I tried did not work. And then at the very end, I just went and built it, and now I'm happy with it, and I don't think it's going to come apart, because that's the last thing you want is your steering to break. That's a bad day. So it's just like, uh-oh, there's no such thing as rodent talent, because you're along for the ride. It's a roller coaster ride at that point. Let me say, let's just end this up. Thank you very much for showing up. I'm nothing special. I just have a grinder and a welder and a bunch of recycled metal that nobody else wants. And we're gonna make something cool. I really haven't spent any money in any metal, at least. It's just lots of grinding discs and lots of argon and lots of welding wire, and that's about it. I think you're gonna like the next episode, because here, hold on. This is what I built, and it's pretty cool. I think it is, but I amuse easily. Just remember, nothing special. You can do it. Just use your imagination, or Uncle Tony's Garage, Imagineering, and just build it with what you got, and be proud of it. So thank you very much. I appreciate you showing up, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.